Thank you all. So I will move forward with some of the questions that we've received. So for Max, one of the questions we received was, I would like to know more about how to secure my future as I near retirement. What are the best options to ensure security?
Well, it really depends on what you're planning. I mean, what is your age, when you're going to be retiring. So it's never too late. But we have different options. And again, we're looking at possibilities. What do you want to do? So where do you see yourself? Are you moving to a different country? Do you still have an outstanding commitment that you need to pay? Are you going to receive a lump sum? So it's very, I will say, it's very personal, the response. And we can, like I mentioned before, we can set up an appointment for you, and we can discuss like a tailored solution to your needs. But definitely, there are many, many things that we can look at, starting from where you are right now. So what do you want to achieve? What are your expectations as well? Do you have, as I said, anything outstanding? So based on that, we can work together to a solution. Thanks.
Thank you, Max. Now I have a question for James. You mentioned how to protect our computers. What should I do, or how should I protect my smartphones from fraud?
All right, well, smartphones are really just small computers. So a lot of the same things, go towards your phone. So always keep your mobile phones, operating system and applications up to date, as recommended by your device manufacturer and your mobile carrier. Only download apps from, trusted sources like the Apple App Store or Google Play. All right, don't go to any of these other websites to download their apps. Avoid clicking on links, from unknown sources in emails and text messages. All right, just, like I mentioned before about phishing emails, it's very important not to click on these links, on anything that maybe you weren't expecting or just appears suspicious. And it's very, very important to password protect your phones. All right, all the phones have this option to have, it protected by a password or even Face ID or fingerprint ID. Make sure you have that setting on there so that in case you do lose or your phone gets stolen, somebody can't access the information there.
Excellent. Thank you, James. Very good advice. So now I would have a question for Valentina. I think we've already addressed it, but the question came up again. Is it possible for a retired UN staff to get a loan?
Yes, we did address loans. Well, generally speaking, a loan is subject to approval, and there are many factors that impact the decision of if the loan is approved or declined. We need to do an assessment on the member's financial situation. So, generally speaking, once again, yes, of course, there's no discrimination, there's no restriction, but we would need to see on a case by case.
Excellent. Thank you, Valentina. So I have another question for James. How do we save, if it's an option to save, safely the passwords on our computer and phone? I mean, we have so many different items, computers, phones, iPads. Is there a safe way to save these passwords on our computer?
Yes, there are applications out there, password managers. There's lots of different ones. You could utilize one of those to save passwords. I mean, I did mention not to use the same password for different websites, so it can get confusing, and it's difficult to remember all the passwords for the different sites that we have. So there are many different password managers out there, and if you go to the App Store or Google Play Store, a lot of them are listed there, and you can locate one that may be easy for you to use.
Thank you. So somebody came up with another question related to saving those passwords on these applications. So the question is, sometimes internet browsers ask you to let you memorize your password, etc., when you're logging in. Is this something, what would you be suggestions for this? Like, it's literally like, for me, it's the same thing with my phone. if I'm using a password to access one of my, diverse online shopping, they will automatically ask me, do you want me to save your password? I say no, but is this something that would be an option?
Well, you definitely don't want to save passwords if you're not using your own personal computer. You would only want to do that on your personal device. And then you have to make sure that that device is password protected, that somebody couldn't just go to that computer or smartphone and open it up, because then they could access those passwords also.
Excellent. Thank you. So let me see if we have some more questions. Please feel free to type out any questions you may have. We still do have some time to be able to address any questions. So feel free to ask them. We have another question for James. Is it safe to send my confidential information by email?
And no, it is not. In general, regular email is not secure. Okay, it goes out to the internet, and that information, it goes from server to server, and each time it stops at a server, it kind of gets recorded there. So you should really never send any of your confidential information through regular email. There are different types of email. Maybe your employer or your agency may have a secure email platform. UNFCU uses a secure email that we will send you a secure email so that you can send us personal information or your confidential information securely back to us. But like I said, in general, normal email is not safe, because if you really think about it, if you address an email to someone and you type the wrong letter in, that's probably someone else's email address. And if you just send it out like that, it's going to go to that other person, so it's not a good idea.
Excellent. Thank you, James. So we have another question for Valentina or Max. Can we carry on paying for a UNFCU loan if we're no longer working for a UN agency?
I can answer this, Max, then eventually you can add something. So if you receive a final entitlement from the UN, we may apply that amount or a portion of it to cover the payment. So what we do suggest is before you leave the UN, reach out to us, and then we can look into different options that you might have. I don't know if you want to add something, Max, but I think this is it.
No, you covered it all. Thanks, Vale.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have a question for either Max or Valentina. Why the rates for share certificates are now very low comparatively to the past?
I can handle that. Well, it is the market rate, really. When we say in the past, maybe we're talking about like years ago, even before the subprime crisis. So the rates have been kind of low compared to 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but definitely are also low in the eurozone as well. I mean, in some countries in Europe, you have a negative interest. So if you compare the US dollars rates are not negative, actually they still give you some interest rate. But that is really is related to the market conditions. So we don't drive the rates; it's the market, the economy. But we always have opportunities at UNFCU to look at other way of putting money away. I mean, that we mentioned before, we have a partnership with financial advisors. So there might be an option for you to explore, and it might be worthwhile to do it. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. So I have a question for Valentina. I would like to use my UNFCU credit card to transfer money through services such as SendWave or Wise, but can only do so by providing a US address. Can I use the UNFCU New York address to register for this service? Or what alternatives do I have if I'm based in Europe?
Yes, as a matter of fact, if you do not have a US address, your billing address for your credit card is our UNFCU address in New York. Correct.
Excellent. Thank you. for James, we have another question. Hold, because I'm trying to find it again. There we go. So one of the questions that we have is, how safe are these password managers? Is there any argument for this service?
There are widely used in the industry out there. You do have to understand that a password manager is secured by a master password. So, should that ever, be compromised in some way, certainly that application could be compromised too. So you do have to be careful with them. Personally, I don't use any. I try to manage these passwords in my head as best I can, because you certainly don't want to write them down or, leave them somewhere else. But they are, like I said, they are widely used in the industry.
Excellent. Thank you, James. So I have a question for Max. Considering the current inflation, which UNFC product would be the best in order to save or protect the savings or purchasing power in the long run? The savings account, high yield savings?
Well, that is a very interesting question. I will say I need to give a very short answer. Go for a secure interest rate. So share certificate, for instance, it might be a good alternative option, really. And for secure, I mean, the rate doesn't change throughout the period of the savings. When we talk about savings account, we will talk about high interest or checking account, high interest savings. Those are what we call it fluctuating. So they're variable rates. It can go up and down, while the share certificate is secure. The other option I will, encourage you to do is check regularly on the website. Follow the newspaper as well. Because if there's an increase in the rates because of the economy's performance, let's say the Federal Reserve decided to increase the rates because the U.S. economy goes, up, it will be most probably reflected in our products. So it might be good for you to touch base with us and see what else is available. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. One question that we have is, and I've seen come up actually quite often, is will this meeting be available to watch again later? So I will answer that question. And yes, we will be providing the recorded video and the questions and answers that have been submitted a little bit after, either on the 25th or a little bit after the 25th of March. So you'll all be able to rewatch, take notes, because there we go. So that's the answer to that question. So now we have a question for Max. Having the UNFCU credit card and savings account in the US, does it help you build a credit history within the US?
Yes, it does. So basically having a credit card and making sure that you pay your credit card on time, so there's no late payments and so on, it will, increase your credit rate, your credit scoring. So definitely, yes, it does.
Excellent. Thank you, Max. Question for James. If you are hacked and you are caught in the scam and transfer the money to the criminal, does UNFCU have some recommended lawyers specialized on online crimes?
No, we don't recommend anyone for that. Unfortunately, this is probably something that individual member would have to deal with. We do have instances where members, fall victim to scams and they send out money. My fraud team, tries to do as much as we can. We will try to recall payments to get money back. Unfortunately, it's not always successful. We do recommend that an individual report the incident to law enforcement. They may be able to help and investigate the incident a little further. It's most important to try not to fall victim to these scams and not send the funds out, initially. Take all the precautions that I did mention, in my presentation, and hopefully, you'll remain safe.
Thank you, James. We have another question for you. When asked to use a safe password, should we use it? Will I have to use the same password randomly created in every device?
Could
So,
you just repeat that one time? Because I'm not
Yeah.
certain exactly what's being asked.
so sometimes, when you're registering to a website or to a merchant, and you create your username, you're putting in a password. Sometimes Google will say, would you like us to propose a safe password? So it's like a random
I
numbers.
get it. Yes. Yeah. Well, the issue with that is then you have to have Google remember that password for you, because in general, those passwords that they generate are about 25 characters, and it's certainly not something you're ever going to remember. So then you would have to have Google save that password for you. And again, we mentioned about the password managers and having websites save them for you. You have to make sure that your device is secure. You have to make sure that you're using your personal device and not a shared device at all. If you ever want to save that password like that.
Excellent. Thank you, James. So let me see if we have some more questions. Waiting for some more questions to come in. Please feel free to ask questions to either panelists. Oh, okay. So for James again, so we have a Tina that says, thank you for all the advice to protect us against fraud. Can you please tell us more about your investigative work, intake process, methods, tools, resources? Okay,
well, I'm not going to disclose all my secrets. Okay, so, but I will tell you that, I've been investigating fraud with UNFCU for the past 15 years. And prior to that, I have a law enforcement background that I was in for 20 years. So, I've learned a lot of tricks and trade things to investigate incidents of fraud. The hardest part of it is that fraud happens everywhere. All right, it's global, especially today. With the internet and all. It wasn't as bad years ago, of course, but so a fraudster could be anywhere. All right, so the chances of identifying somebody is very difficult. When we're talking about fraud and those types of cyber crimes. And again, I just have to say, for you to be careful, for our members to take precautions. And, we learn from a lot of the incidents, and then, we can share that information and, like I did today, and things to look out for. So the best way, to prevent fraud is to stop it before it happens. So, the investigative part afterwards, after a fraud has occurred, many times doesn't help. So it's just a matter of identifying it first.
Excellent. Thank you, James. So I will be asking one more question to Valentina, and then after that, we will wrap up the Q&A section of this presentation. So one more question for Valentina is, what is the percentage of interest earned over 3 months? Secondly, does the percentage increase with the amount, or does the percentage increase only based on time?
Okay, I need to check the interest because I don't know it by heart. Now, the interest is based on the certificate. I'm assuming we're talking about your certificates. The interest is based on the certificate term. We calculate the interest daily and we compound it monthly. It's up to the member decide if they want to have the interest accruing on the certificate or if they want to have it disbursed every month on another account. This is entirely up to the member. The rate for the 3 months can be found on our website, unfcu.org/rates. I just opened it quickly and it's 0.10 right now.
Excellent.
And of course, the more you deposit, the more you earn.
Yeah.
As it's a percentage.
Just to add that this is the annual rate. Okay. So
This is the annual
0.10.
rate, of course. This is the annual rate, yes.
So if
This
you
is
want
the
to
annual
know
rate.
how much you're getting after 3 months, you divide this by 4.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Valentina. So we have reached the end of our questions and answers. Any questions that we were not able to address during this session, we will be taking the time to respond to you in the next few days. So I pass it back to Nisreen, and thank you all.